Hey, it's Matt here, and you found the dim light cheat sheet. This is the camera settings. These are the camera settings that you need to use if you're going to be shooting in dim light. First thing you're going to want to do is set your camera, set the ISO because that's kind of the starting point for taking your picture. The ISO makes your camera more or less sensitive to the light. So you're in dim light. There's very little light. You need to make your ISO more sensitive. You need to make your camera more sensitive to the light. So crank your ISO up. If you're in dark cloud cover or deep shade, your starting point is going to be 1600, and you may need to go higher as well. If you're indoors or you're outdoors and it's nighttime, you're probably going to need to be around 3200 to 6400. Next is your aperture settings. So when people talk about opening the aperture, it literally means you're making the aperture in the lens wider, therefore letting more light in. That's one of the things that goes on with the aperture. You can check out the aperture cheat sheet for more information. But if you're in dim light, if you're able to set your aperture to f1.8, do it. Usually that is a specialty kind of lens. So for most lenses, you're looking at 3.5 or 5.6. This is going to let the most light in. So remember, higher ISO, open that aperture up all the way by choosing the lowest f number that you can get. Now, are your photos blurry from movement? Because there are people or objects in your photo that are moving and then they're coming out blurry, or maybe you're shaking a little bit as you take the picture, so the whole picture is blurry. You need to feed your camera more light. So increase your ISO to something higher. Wherever you are at, raise it higher. If you say, Matt, I'm in the shade, you said to go to 1600, well, now I'm telling you, you need to go higher. 1600 was your starting point. Also, another way to feed your camera more light is set your aperture to a lower f number. I know this sounds a little bit repetitive, but it needs to be repetitive until it gets drilled in, because I do find that my students will remember one of these things and not the rest. So remember, crank that ISO up higher and set your aperture to a lower f number. And these things are going to help you take a better picture in low light.